Welcome back to the channel, you guys. Welcome back. Today we're going to be installing the ZTW 200 in the Blackjack 42. Okay, I got the program card with it. We're basically going to do a review and full install. Okay, we're going to be mounting it up with black carbon fiber from Offshore Electrics. All right, and the last video you guys seen that I blew my ESC, my servo up, receiver, everything, running this TP Power 4060 1900 kV. Okay, underpowered it. I was asking too much of the ESC with that big motor. All right, so we blew it up. All right, so we're going to install the 200. In the next video, we're actually going to install a standard size Power HD servo. I'm going to show you guys how I did it. All right, get rid of this 6-scale servo, lighten up the boat a little bit. So stick around. Big B with Ironclad RC. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ZTW. All right, give you guys a quick review, like a visual review, and kind of go over some of the specs. So you've got your instructions here, you know, a quick start guide. All right, you basically get your instructions and the speed control. There's no connector soldered on. You can solder up your choice of connector. Recommended 6.5 or better. Okay, all the way around, 6.5 or better. 8mm would be ideal. All right, as you see, it's all aluminum cased. Okay, it's got like a nice grind mark around, anodized aluminum. All right, solid aluminum. It's a heavy speed control. We'll get some weights and measurements on it in a minute. All right, on the top you got your 6 caps here, capacitors, and your water cooling block right beside them. That's good to see. All right, nice large hole on your nipples there. You're going to get plenty of water in and out. All right, you got 10 gauge motor wires, okay, and they're actually pretty long. All right, that's good to see. It looks like they use like a rubber grommet here for the through, you know, for the wire through hull there. And same thing on this side. Now this speed control, it's not waterproof, it's water resistant, so they, you know, just keep that in mind. All right, you got your RX wire, which is fairly long, and your program box wire. Okay, 10mm or 10 gauge, excuse me, 10 gauge battery wires. All right, pretty long. It's a nice looking speed control, you guys. 200 amp continuous, 300 amp burst. Okay, 2 to 8S capable, 200 amp, 6 volts, 6 amp BEC. Okay, that's kind of the reason why I went with the 200 opposed to the 300. The 300's opto, and the 300 is basically the size of this freaking box right here. It's much larger than this 200, and I was trying to go with a lightweight setup. The reason I'm going with a lightweight setup is because I got these 5200 milliamp 135C DV Extremes we're going to be running in the boat. Also got some 6300, and we got a big boy here, 7600 150C. Okay, so I was trying to go light with the electronics, you know, because I actually got some pretty hefty batteries here, and that should be perfect for the boat. Now I am going to be soldering up 6.5s on the speed control. That's the minimum. Like I said, 8mm is suggested. I suggest 8mm or larger, or well, 6.5 or larger. So I got the ZTW here. We got the height. It's basically 28mm thick. Okay, the width is 55mm. Okay, and the length is 92 millimeters, basically 92 millimeters. Total length with the water nipples is 111 total length. Okay, all right, so let's get a weight here. Let's get a weight with the stock ESC and a weight with the upgraded ZTW. All right, stock speed control with connectors is 288. Upgraded ZTW without connectors is 350, basically 348. So 288, 348. All right. Let's see. Let's get a weight on the stock motor, 654. And the upgraded motor, $5.94. Yeah, so it's 100 grams lighter. I guessed it at the pond the other day. It was 100 grams lighter. All right, so let's go ahead and get the connector soldered up. All right, I'm going to use the 6.5 Castles, which should be sufficient, and the SC5s, which are not recommended. All right, not recommended. EC5, I don't recommend it. I would go with something a little bit bigger, like a Q8. Like I said, I'm waiting on SMC to finish developing his like custom 8mm full copper connector. All right, so let's get to it. So I'm actually using this 60-40 solder right here. Okay, this stuff's pretty good. It flows nice. One of my subscribers sent this to me, Mr. Green. Thank you. I appreciate it, brother. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started on it. I'm gonna use my new soldering iron, this Wheeler, 80 some odd watt. Now I'm going to get it hot. Make sure the whole wire's hot. Heat it up till everything's hot. Boom. See that? So I've got negative to negative on one connector. The positive on that same connector is going to the negative on the second connector. We're hooking this up in series, okay? So positive to negative, and then we got our positive here to the positive on the ESC, okay? When you're hooking up a wire configuration like this, you want to try to you don't want to like twist your wire up like that, because once you solder it on there, it's going to be all twisted up. So you want to make sure everything's like laid out nicely. Okay, go ahead and put your sheath on, your wire cover. All right, got my heat shrink on there. I usually just run one heat shrink on these connectors. So I got my ESC on a block, kind of got it rubber banded on there, just kind of lifted up off the table a little bit. I've got my connector in a brass tube that I've crimped the end of it. All right, it's thin and it doesn't really, it won't cool the solder joint down real quick, you know. You can use a drill bit too, and if you use a drill bit, you can just like heat up the drill bit, not cherry red or nothing, just heat it up so it's not like cold. All right, so what I'm gonna do is just kind of stick my new soldering iron in there and get my solder ready. I'm gonna pull out some solder, kind of get it ready to go, and I just bumped it. All right, and then we could stick the wire right in. Okay, I made sure all my wires were the correct size so it goes right into the connector. All right. Make sure your ESC wires are tinned up. Fill this thing up to about the little hole. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Make sure she's hot. Then you want to make sure your wire gets hot. Once you put the wire in there, make sure everything's hot. Keep your iron on it. You don't want a cold solder joint. Make sure she's hot. Make sure everything gets hot. That's the key. Kind of wiggle it around a little bit. Make sure there's no voids in there. Make sure everything's looking liquidy and then pull it off. Don't blow it. Don't blow it. As much as you want to blow it, don't blow it. Let it cool at room temperature, okay? If you get a little bit of solder on the side, just kind of heat it up and smooth it out. All right, that's all you gotta do. Boom. Okay, nice solder joint. Alright, they look good. Looks good. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get them heat shrunk and get this thing going. Boom! Alright, got both of my SC5s hooked up. Okay, and my 6.5s. Alright, they turned out pretty good. Okay, looks good, looks good. Alright, I got some new heat shrink on the motor here. So we're actually, we're gonna actually mount the ESC on a piece of carbon fiber that size. Okay, had this just a scrap. I was going to use this fiberglass. I figured carbon fiber would look better with the black boat. So I actually upgraded my screws here because the 2.5s that were in the boat stripped out. So I carefully drilled it out and put these aluminum screws in, 4mm screws. So we're going to cut a piece of carbon fiber exactly this size, and then we're going to use this bolt pattern for the mounting screws. Okay, pretty simple, pretty simple. All right, got the carbon fiber cut out. Okay, nice cut, nice straight cut. All right, and I'm gonna put it in the boat here. So I need to actually mount my hole closer to one side than the other. You guys see that? So it don't run into the mount here. I'm gonna actually wrap zip ties around it to mount it up. Okay. And I was actually contemplating using aluminum because aluminum dissipates heat as well. But I think the carbon fiber will look good. I really don't use much carbon fiber in my boats, and I'm trying to change that. All right. So need the hole about right there. So I'm just gonna eye it. I'm gonna put my old ESC on here. Okay. Get me a scribe tool and scribe it. Got the carbon fiber in. Okay, I got my hose counter sunk. Turned out pretty good. Alright, got one zip tie under it. I'm going to double side tape the ESC down. Just going to double side tape it and then use that one zip tie just for reassurance, you know. If you're going to be installing this ESC in this boat, you're definitely going to need an extension. Alright, not all extensions are created equal. You want an extension that has a decent gauge wire. You know, some of them are really thin wired and some of them are thicker. This one's about the same gauge as this ZTW, so we're going to use this guy here to reach the receiver. So I went ahead and installed the motor, the collet, flex cables hooked up there, got it all plumbed in. Also got my ESC in the boat with the carbon fiber mount, double side taped down, and a zip tie just for reassurance. Got it plumbed in to the cooling. Okay. I went ahead and put some heat shrink on here while I was waiting for my program box to come in. I have heat shrink here, and heat shrink here. That should consolidate my wires so I can basically mount them up right there. Alright, got heat shrink on my bullets so I can waterproof them so water don't get on my bullets and tarnish them. Alright, let's make sure our polarity is correct on the ESC with our connectors before we do our initial plug-in. Okay, so negative to negative. Okay, positive to negative. Series connection, positive to positive. Alright, that looks good. Alright, whenever we plug the batteries in, I'm going to use both SMC DV extract packs here. Okay, make sure your steering and throttle is zeroed out. When we plug the batteries in, we're going to hold full trigger release full trigger after we hear a couple beeps emit, okay? And then it should start up for us. All right, then we'll go through and program the ESC. Now you definitely will need your program box for this ESC. It's not programmable through the transmitter via beeps. You've got to have the program box, okay? I've had this ESC in the boat for like 4 or 5 days here. You know, been waiting on this guy to come in. Hurricane delayed the mail. So I'm ready to get this thing on the water, man. So I'm gonna get everything ready to go here, get the battery set out here, and get my camera set up. All right, so I'm using a little extension for my ESC. That way, when I have this receiver in my receiver box and I need to program it with my LCD program card here, I don't have to open the box up, take my receiver out. I can just unplug this extension right here to program the ESC. Okay, and we're going to go into some programming today as well. You guys will be learning as I learn. All right, so I got everything ready. We're going to get the battery plug ready here. All right, I got everything zeroed out on transmitter here. Excuse me. Holding full trigger. Okay, hold full trigger. Plug it in. You hear 2 beeps. Okay, let it go. Alright, to neutral position. Alright. It's got signal. Okay, it's ready. Basically ready. Alright, so let's give it some trigger, see if we got power. We got power. Okay, soft start. So we'll need to program that delay out. See that? Alright, so that sounds good. Alright, I'm actually gonna hook up a servo real quick. I got an old dead servo. This is a SPEKTRUM servo that's the gears are messed up. Let's just make sure we got BEC power before we go any farther in the install in case something's wrong with the speed control. Okay, got that plugged in. Let's see if we got... Okay, so that works. Alright, good deal. Good deal. Alright, so let's unplug that because it's not finding center anymore. Alright. Oh, man. One thing breaks, everything breaks. It's like that. Alright, so what I'm going to do is pause it. I'm going to get everything ready. Okay, we're going to unhook the batteries so we can plug in our program box. Alright, the short wire goes in the middle. The long wire goes on the outside. Okay. So I know it's a jumbled up mess, but I got my RX wire unplugged from the receiver. Okay, when you're plugging in this program box, like I was mentioning, the long wire goes on the outside, the short wire goes on the inside. Okay, it has polarities on your program box right here. Make sure that you plug this in the right orientation. Okay. Long wire on the outside, short wire on the middle. Okay, like so. Alright, now you plug in your batteries. I don't think it matters if you have your transmitter on or not. Okay, not for this. So we're going to plug in our battery. Let's hope for the best. Alright, it came on. Alright, let's take off this piece of paper. Okay, ZTW seal. Okay, ready to connect the ESC. Okay, off, brake type off, menu, battery type LIPO, voltage. Okay, so we're at 60%, value 65, no protection. Okay. Okay, let's keep that at the stock default. Motor timing 2 degrees. Let's go. So this is probably like a Y1, so I'm gonna go around 15 degrees. I think that's where it's at on the stock ESC, if I'm not mistaken. It might be 11.25. Alright, okay, motor timing, motor rotation. I didn't check motor rotation. We'll have to do that in a minute. We'll keep it at forward. Start strength, let's go up on that. Okay. Let's go up to 50. Alright. Cutoff type, reduce power. Reduce power, let's keep that there. Brake type off. Okay, LIPO. Man, it don't really have very many options, does it? Okay. Let's check our motor rotation here. Motor rotation's good. Oh, I don't like that soft start, man. Check this out. Might be putting this on the V2 and getting that Hydra for this bad boy, so we can run this motor. You know what I mean? I don't know if this ESC is gonna pull this motor. I don't think it will. Yeah, that's how you hook up a ZTW. Okay, it really doesn't sound like the motor's spooling up full RPM, like at wide open throttle bench testing, but I really don't want to like fully like wide open throttle out of the water, you know. So we may have to mess around with some of the parameters, some of the settings. You know, a couple guys said that I may need to set my low voltage protection to off and or auto calculate the timing. You know, auto timing calculation. One of the parameters there, a couple of parameters I may need to mess around with to get it to its full potential, you know, and or hook it up to the computer and do like a software update. Could have old software in this thing. There's no telling, you know. Sometimes these ESC, you know, hooking up a new ESC or familiarizing yourself with a new speed control can be a little daunting, can be a little troublesome at times, you know. But overall, so far, everything seems pretty good. I got that'll be in the next video right there. When I blew up that ESC, whenever I blew up the Firma here, I was actually running this 1716 ABC prop. Believe it or not, when I blew this thing up, I was running that small prop. A couple guys were like, you know, when you get high temperatures, normally you would prop down, but the temps were only like in the 150s, you know. Externally, you know, 150s is the highest temp I had on the whole setup with this little prop, you know, 43 millimeter, I believe. And I usually run this guy right here with a stock motor, this 1816. I got this 2016 that I'm working on balancing. Man, this thing had the worst hub I've ever seen on a propeller. Oh man, it was so freaking bad, y'all. I'm not even kidding. The hub was the worst out of balance I've ever seen on any propeller. And this Pro Boat 1716 right here, it took me about a month to get this one balanced up and right. The hub was really bad on this. Like the hole was bored in the propeller, crooked. You know, oh man, it was bad. And on this 2016 right here, one side of the bore was like, I'm talking about almost a millimeter larger than this side. This side right here fitted tight. This side right here was like really big. So I actually had to take down the hub, you know, length, hoping that it was just the outside, like the end of that hub that was oversized, but it wasn't, man. And I'm having a heck of a time balancing. I've almost got it. It's almost there. I mean, hell, I could probably run it like it is, you know what I mean? But you can see it's got a little faster drop on one blade there. So I'm still work on that. So we're going to actually run these two props on our initial run, the 1716 and the 1816 here, with the ZTW. Okay, so, you know, it actually turned out pretty clean looking, you know. Got my wires all consolidated. I'm thinking about squeezing like a little piece of metal in between there, you know, crimping off my wires right here somehow, like make a little mount, because last thing you want is your wires coming unloose, you know, undone. If your wire, like a wire, actually hits the inside of your boat in a flip, it'll actually crack your hull. I've had it happen in my Delta Force, a small hairline crack from my wires, I believe. Now, just, you know, just like I'll say it again, you know, a Q8, a EC8 would be better than these SC5s, EC5, or XT90. Okay, like I said, I've got like a ton of batteries I've got to solder up, on top of several ESCs that I need to solder up. So, kind of putting it off, man. Putting it off. But, you know, do as I say, not as I do type deal. Alright, so thank you guys for watching. Sorry it's such a long video. We'll see you next time.